I want to welcome everyone to this forum, and especially if you're a new member or new to this type of forum. My name is Chris Kalaikai. I'm the president of Active Claremont, and I welcome you. I want to remind everyone, if you could please silence your cell phones, but at the same time, I encourage you to use your social media and live features to disseminate this information to any other members in the community so that they can partake in this forum if they weren't able to make it tonight, because I know a lot of people have meetings and other things that they're doing in their lives as well. But I appreciate your attendance. Active Claremont is an organization that is supposed to inform the community and try to increase communication between the city government and the residents. And actually this topic that's going on tonight is what got me really involved in Active Claremont, because I went in December to one of our presentations and saw about the condition of the Claremont Police Department. So I think this is a very important issue, and our organization tries to keep things apolitical. We want to have discussion. We don't want to be fighting about issues, so we'd rather discuss information. So at the end, when we open up the mic, if you are opposed or you are for, we welcome you to come forward and voice your opinion so that everybody can hear what you have to say, and perhaps you can open their minds to ideas that they haven't seen before. And with that, I would like to turn the microphone over to our most excellent moderator, Jackie McHenry, and she's also a past president of Active Claremont. Thank you.
Okay. Slight correction to what Chris said. You will not be getting up to the microphone and voicing your opinion. You'll be writing it on cards that Dean McHenry, Dean, stand up, and Jean Hart. Jean, where are you? Back in the room. If you have a question after our presentation, then please raise your hand and they will give you a card and also a pencil or a pen if you need it. And then they will be brought up to me, and then I will ask the questions and the participants will respond. Just to give you a little background in preparing for this forum, the Measure SC, pro-Measure SC people have responded pretty quickly and got on our calendar. I and another person contacted six people from the opposition who either couldn't or didn't want to speak tonight. Some of them may be in the audience, so some of their material is on the back there, so I welcome their participation as well, but not as presenters because they already had their chance to do that. So tonight we're going to be hearing from the pro-Measure SC people who will give a presentation. That will be followed by questions from the audience. We need to end the program at 8:30, no later than 8:30, because we do need to vacate the building by 9 o'clock, and it takes us sometimes that long with our conversations afterwards, and also our videographer packing up to do that. Thank you, Hughes Center. Well, we did pay for the space, but still, I know you guys have to get home, so we're gonna leave it a timely manner. So now I want to present Betty Crocker, and Jim Keith will be doing the presentation for the pro-Measure SC people. Take it away.
Thank you, Jackie McHenry, and everybody from Active Claremont. I know that these are not easy to put together, and without you making sure that the community has a voice, we would not all be here this evening. So it's with gratitude that we're standing here in front of you. So it is true, my name is Betty Crocker. I am your neighbor here in Claremont. I came to Claremont about 12 years ago, October. And the first place I stopped at was at the, true story, was at the Claremont Police Department on Bonita. I'd never been to Claremont before, and I wanted to know if this was our police department or whether this was a contracted city with the sheriff. And I was very pleased to find out that Claremont Police Department is a city-operated, locally controlled police department. So I got busy with a lot of community work. Almost immediately, my street was hit with 8 cars being broken into, and that was the genesis of getting to know my neighbors through KG&H Keeping the Good in our neighborhood, which has turned out to be a wonderful opportunity to connect with neighbors and join in keeping our city safe. I've had the pleasure of meeting many more neighbors. We call ourselves Partners for a Safe Claremont. And Ed Reese is my co-chair. He's out of town this evening on business. And we sent you a letter to your home, which I hope you receive tomorrow. I'd like to read a little bit of it to you. Your participation in the most urgent matter facing our community in the coming 60 days is needed. The 47-year-old 9,800 square foot Claremont Police Station is falling apart. Built originally for a force of 24 sworn male officers, it can't support today's electronic technology without backup generators. The women employees change in a trailer in the parking lot. It is not ADA accessible. Vital records and employee equipment lockers are kept in storage outdoors. Tiny closets and jail cells have been repurposed into offices. An earthquake would bring the place down. Our city council and the community have jointly developed plans to build a new, efficient, and expandable police facility on the same site as the current police station. This 26,000 square foot facility will accommodate our 40-member force, our 3 reserve officers, our 30 volunteers, and our 130 plus CERT, which are our community emergency response team participants. More importantly, it will support our city, which in the last 47 years has doubled in area, increased more than 50% in population, and will continue to expand over the next 50 years. I'd like to introduce you to our chief, Shelley Vander. Our chief is going to take you through our PD station.
Shelley Vander, and I'm proud to serve as your police chief in the great city of Claremont. Having served this community for the last 25 years, and as a Claremont resident, I'm committed to provide a high level of law enforcement service the community deserves. Since the station opened its doors, Claremont has seen a lot of change. The city has doubled in size from 7 square miles to over 14. During that same time, we've seen the population increase by 40%. The transformation of the village area and Auto Center Drive, and the growth and advancement of the Claremont colleges that have helped put Claremont on the world map. It was about 43 years ago that the city opened the police station on Bonita Avenue. While the most critical work we do happens as our officers patrol the streets, engage the public, and respond to calls, in the background is a team of dedicated staff and a police facility that supports our officers in the field in every way possible. I would like to take you on a short, behind-the-scenes tour of your city's police station to give you some perspective on how we have adapted over the last 43 years to get the most from our facility, and to highlight some challenges that concern me as I think about Claremont's public safety future. Our single-story concrete station sits quietly at the corner of Bonita and Cornell. When the station opened 43 years ago, the plan was for the facility to serve our community for 30 years. It was also originally designed to house a police force of just 24 male officers and 10 staff. Today, we have 70 men and women serving our growing communities. To accommodate our female officers and staff, we had to create a women's locker room facility in a temporary trailer outside the station. The increase in patrol officers and support staff has required us to become creative in maximizing our use of space. In many instances, short-term solutions have turned into long-term ones. Closets have been converted to offices, and offices have been converted into cubicle farms. For example, recent enhancements in our 911 and dispatch capabilities required that we convert a storage area into a 2-person workstation area, and our watch commander's office is literally a converted janitor's closet. Where possible, we have innovated to extend the life of the station and to provide efficient work areas as we can meet the needs of a modern community. The obligations of police to preserve and properly store evidence have also evolved over the past 40 years. Today, we have more evidence than ever as we go about our criminal investigations and provide the evidence needed to support the district attorney in their trials. Our evidence room has been filled beyond its capacity, and we now store less environmentally sensitive evidence in a storage locker on our back lot. It was not originally designed for evidence, but we've adapted to make it work. Claremont community benefits greatly from having a safe, well-trained, proactive police force that uses modern tools and technologies to deliver services efficiently. As a law enforcement professional for the past 25 years, I've seen how the demands for technology impact our police force and its capabilities dramatically. These new technologies, such as license plate readers, computer forensics, and DNA testing, have not only required more servers, workstations, and space to safely operate them, but they have dramatically increased our facility's power requirements. The Claremont Police Station's 43-year-old electrical system has exceeded its original design capacity and can no longer support additional electrical demands. This reality creates risk, but our options for growth are limited. Delivering on a 21st century police capability is being hampered by 1970s construction. Our current facilities fail to meet a number of modern standards. Our jail was constructed during a time when the classic steel bars we see in movies and cartoons were the norms. Today, jails no longer allow these bars for a variety of reasons. They present safety hazards to our jail staff, as prisoners can easily assault staff through the openings, and the bars can be a hazard to prisoners themselves, as it is possible to hang yourself from them. In addition, Claremont's jail also was never built with a sobering cell for a prisoner under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Sobering cells provide a rubberized floor and walls to prevent intoxicated persons from injuring themselves during a fall. Finally, our cells are 15 square feet too small for today's correction standards. Construction of the police station preceded any energy conservation or design movement. The lack of any energy efficiency of the station is pretty apparent with its old lighting fixtures, lack of insulation, and an obsolete heating and air conditioning system, and boiler that no longer have readily available parts. The station's generator is so old that we brought in a temporary generator on a trailer to ensure the station has power during an outage. This obsolete infrastructure increases the station's annual operating costs relative to many modern buildings and can occasionally disrupt our operations. Perhaps of most concern to me, however, are the seismic risks. Seismic standards for buildings have dramatically changed since the Northridge earthquake 20 years ago. Engineers now better understand the risks associated with concrete block buildings such as ours. And there are new building codes for essential service facilities such as police and fire stations designed to keep them up and running during an emergency, like an earthquake. The critical concern I have as the Claremont Police Chief is that the very moment our community will need us most, after a major earthquake, we may find our own station is unable to serve our needs. The Claremont Police Station has served this community well for over 40 years, lasting much longer than its intended lifespan. The men and women who work in and out of this facility have adapted, evolved, and flexed to ring in the value of the building. Yet as I look into the future of law enforcement and the needs of our community, I know there is an immediate need to replace this building with one designed to meet the needs of a 21st century police force. A building that better connects the police with the residents we serve. A building designed to safely house the technologies and the people that have become standard in the policing world. If you want to learn more about our station and see it in action, please contact me at the police department. Tours are available for small groups, and we'd be happy to give you a first-hand vantage point on our operations and the building we rely on every moment of the day to meet the public safety needs of the Claremont community.
I don't know if we have anybody from the Claremont Police Department here, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for your service. I do believe I saw Chief Shelley Vander Veen walk in. She's in the back. Thank you, Chief. Thanks for doing that video. It's our time. It's our turn. Chief and the team have done a lot to make that building work. Now it's our time. It's our time to give our city direction. It's our time to invest in the police department and building a station that will support the needs for the next 50 years. This is my favorite part of this evening. This is the Claremont process. The Claremont that I know and love, we don't give up. Our then mayor, Corey Kalaikai, upon the defeat of Measure PS, which was a $50 million parcel tax, he asked 15 members of the community to sit at a table. Of course, Corey, we did not know it was going to be 2 years, but we sat there. The majority of folks were opposed to Measure PS. And we all sat together and we figured this out. We figured this forward. Jim Keith and I were 2 members of this 15-member team. The goal of our ad hoc committee was 25,000 square feet, 25 million, and 25-year financing term. It was a simple number for us, but it kept everything inside of that envelope and kept us on track. The city hired an architect with experience building a public safety building to draft a design for the facility based on the ad hoc committee's criteria. The committee met for over a year and presented their final recommendations to the city council. In a nutshell, this is what we came up with. 26,000 square feet. The cost was $25 million. The location is at its current facility. The PD station, what we're suggesting, should be at the same location on Bonita Avenue. The bond term was 25 years. And instead of a parcel tax, as Measure PS was, the committee unanimously, majority voted for the general obligation bond for a financing mechanism. So here is our overall site plan. I don't know how that looks from your seat. First time I saw this, I said, what is this? So just so we get our bearings straight, this is Bonita right here. This right here is where our current PD sits. Now, one of the reasons we were able to keep this inside of the envelope, as Chair Mark Sturba kept saying to us, was that we are not displacing PD's services. PD is going to continue to operate inside of the building that is right here. And essentially what is right here currently is a parking lot. So we're going to displace the parking lot, if you will, and we're going to build a 2-story structure right here. When it is done being built, PD will relocate over, and then we will demolish the current station, and essentially that will be the frontage as well as public parking. In the committee, just so you know how nitty-gritty we got on the committee, we even went down to counting how many parking spaces we were going to even use for the impound lot. We looked at every possible thing because we were committed to keep and contain the cost and hit our goal of 25 million. Well, Jim, I almost asked you to do the clicker. So here is our ground level. So the new station has, as I was sharing, a 2-story design that allows walls and interior reconfiguration and rooms for furniture expansion on the second floor. The flexible space will accommodate changes to the police department in the future. The current station was built with windowless block walls that interlock, making reconfiguration and expansion difficult and costly. And we looked at that option as well over the course of those 2 years. The new facility would be built to current ADA standards, ensuring employees and visitors have access to all areas of the facility. A gated parking lot with covered carports would secure the city's police vehicles, as well as provide an area to house the mobile command center. The gated lot, excuse me, can we turn the slide up for just a moment? I'm trying to read in the dark here. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. So the gated lot also serves as a sally port when escorting arrestees to and from the jails, increasing the safety to the surrounding neighborhoods. And I've heard the chief tell us firsthand, I've been to many PD stations as well to get to this place. The sally port is a very vital requirement nowadays with the police station buildings, because that is what secures the safety of the surrounding neighborhood, secures the safety of the arrestee, and secures the safety of our officer who has detained this person, because it allows them to safely transport them from the car into the station. Most importantly, the new facility design reflects the station of modern police work. Today's officers are engaged in the community and partner with community organization and volunteers. The new facility design reflects this new philosophy with facilities for community meetings, an inviting lobby area, interview rooms that protect the privacy of victims, equal and equitable facilities for men and women, and a respectful and safe jail environment. The new design would use natural light and solar power to minimize electrical use and create an inviting workspace. The facility design incorporates energy saving and modern temperature control systems to replace the decades-old boiler and regulate the computer server rooms. The solar array on the covered parking would help to offset the energy costs of the new building. The energy efficient features and solar panels are in line with the goals outlined. So here is the first floor. So one of the things that you'll notice right here, this is the lobby area. Here's the multi-purpose room. So we have good community access, and everything from here forward is built to the Essential Services Safety Act. That saves a lot of money, folks. The architect looked at every opportunity to build to the code that is required, and where we didn't need to observe the 1.5% building code of the Essential Services Act, we used that opportunity. And the other thing I'd like to point out too is, excuse me, there we go. I don't know.
From this picture to the next picture, what are we looking at?
No, I'm going backwards, sorry. You did. I just hit the wrong button, I apologize. Jim is saving me.
I don't know where, I can't get orientation on these.
Yeah, go ahead back to the first floor. So on the top part of the building, that is Bonita, and that is the multi-purpose room that we're showing. Can you show them the locker space with the, thank you. So we have men's and ladies' locker facilities. Now the important thing here is, as well, is that this will contain all of their equipment. Much of their equipment right now is outside, in outside storage areas. So this will take care of all the needs. And we've also put in a flex area should we need to grow. Right now they can, the police officers can use that as an exercise room. We have a lot of extra space as well in the bottom part. You see where our jail facility is? Yeah, but there you go. So this is the jail facility that the chief was referring to that would meet all of the modern codes. Can you go to the second floor? Thank you. And that also had a safe interview space as well to interview the victims. Right now we do not have that space outside of a single room that we have in current PD. And so the second floor is essentially the admin facilities, and that would be where the chief, the lieutenant, we also have a conference room, and there's plenty of flex space in there. You can see that there's some space in there that does not have a specific function per se. It gives us that flexible space, such as the storage room. Okay. And we don't have any of that right now. We're using janitor's closets as offices. You go to the next one. And so here is the artist rendition. This is the aerial view from the northwest corner. Now, because this is a public building in the city of Claremont, we have to go through the Architectural Commission to get the final approval on what a rendition would look like. This is just an artist's rendition, but it kind of gives you, a place marker, if you will. Go ahead. And here is the westbound from Cornell, which includes all of the solar panels that we were talking about, as well as the covered parking. And here's how the costs break down. So the brick and mortar is $12 million, the site development, total architectural, technical, construction management, and the signage. There is a note on the signage as well. That's no art or monuments. That would be a community opportunity to raise money for that. Environmental review, site services, moving and relocation costs, the fixtures, furniture, and equipment that I now affectionately know, I think, Jim, all 15 of us know now, it's called FF&E. This was something that our chair, Mark Sturba, had really led us through, which was we did not want to put furnitures, fixtures, and equipment on a 25-year bond. Anything that wouldn't last 25 years didn't seem something that we wanted to do as a reasonable fashion. So the $1.5 million is what the city will pay with the general fund. And then radio communication equipment, and we put some contingency plans in there. The first one is the cost escalation, 2 years at a conservative 5% per year, and then a 10% contingency. That is how it gets to $25 million. So the bond itself is a $23.5 million bond that we are asking for your support. So again, the total estimated project cost is $25 million. It's $23.5 million in debt proceeds, $1.5 million contributions from the other sources. That was for the FF&E. No federal grants are currently available for brick and mortar. As opportunities become available, of course, our city staff would apply for grants and pursue other funding, which would be used to replace the bond. And Mr. Jim Heath.
Thank you. We don't have anyone here from the opposition today, but we certainly heard from them in the Claremont Courier and in many Facebook posts. So I think we need to realistically address some of the points they're making. So here's a quote from an opponent just last Friday. I fully support the police department and place a great deal of value on what they do. They will need a police station at some point in the future. But right now, Claremont needs leadership and fresh perspectives. Okay, I want to point out that in a number of these quotes, right away, they have no complaint about the project. They're not saying the building's too large, in the wrong place. It's all about financing cost and time. So I think this is amazing. This is a terrific progression from back when it was being discussed as a much larger $50 million facility out on Monte Vista. But what are we saying here? Right now, Claremont needs leadership and fresh perspectives. It's saying that it really won't hurt to wait another 3 years to consider it again. Because that's what it's been from the last one. Even if you work really hard, it takes 3 years to bring it around again. But there is a problem, and I want to point it out to you. This is a picture of cracks in the existing police station, but most importantly to me, on the left, it's a picture up through the roof. You are looking at a 20-inch thick slab of concrete, and that's what's over the top of this building. It was built like a bomb shelter. Now, the problem is when you have an earthquake and the building moves, a heavy roof doesn't want to move. It's just sitting there happy staying where it's at. And when suddenly the walls move and the roof doesn't, that's when it can become dislodged. Now, I personally was a general manager of a plant in Southgate. The old Firestone plant had a very heavy roof. And when the Whittier earthquake happened, the building moved, the roof didn't, and it just ripped all the connection from the roof to the shear walls. I was afraid immediately our plant was going to be shut down and red tagged as unusable. But thankfully, it was sitting on the steel columns, and we quickly got it re-engineered and put in a 20-foot long plate of steel to secure it to the shear walls. But my point is, it happened. You know, when you have a massive roof, it's a problem. And that's what they didn't realize when they built this thing. So the longer we wait, the longer we have that hazard. Now, some people said, well, it hasn't happened in 40 years, so you're chicken little. I saw that on Facebook, calling us chicken little for trying to provide for the safety of the employees and for the continued operation of this station. If we get a big earthquake, it's not just going to be the station that's affected, it's going to be the rest of us, and we're going to want those people functioning, not unable to use their station, and maybe having some people who've been killed in the process. What's the other problem with waiting? Rising interest rates have already increased the cost of this project by $130,000 a year. When we started getting an estimate of what it would cost to fund this, it was 1.42 million per year. Now it's 1.55. Why? Because they've raised the expected interest rate up to 4.2%. And we were being warned that if you wait too long, it's going to go a lot higher. So just sitting here costs us money. We've already lost $130,000 a year. Lastly, if we wait until the building is damaged, contractors will be scurrying everywhere to fix what has happened. They won't be available, and it'll cost us a tremendous amount. And it was once estimated that if you had to set up a temporary police station out in the park and then move back and forth, it was going to be $2.5 million for that. So waiting costs money. It's time to do it now. What's another opposition point of view? Again, the station is old, outdated, unsafe, and needs to be replaced. That was 2 weeks ago. So again, the critique is, yes, we need it, but in this case, the objection was, it's costing money now, and we have a lot of other expenses in our lives. And so, you know, there's time to say no to something, so let's go to this. So that's a good question. What is it really going to cost us? The annual debt service, as I said, is $1.55 million because of the increased finance cost. After 25 years, we will have paid $38 million. The amount that people will pay is based on the assessed value or the net taxable value on your tax statement. And in the first year, it's going to be a maximum of $30.33 per $100,000 of value in your parcel. Now, later on, it's going to be less expensive. And this is unusual, where the cost starts out high and drops off. But what happens is we have to raise $1.55 million. Well, every year, houses are selling. There are 3 homes that sold in my cul-de-sac in just the last year and a half. Only 11 homes on my cul-de-sac. 3 have sold. So the taxable value on my cul-de-sac is really going through the roof with the sales, and that's going to continue. So when they forecast how much the taxable value will be in Claremont over the next 25 years, the cost is going to drop to an average of $24.47 per 100,000. You've read about this in the Courier, so this is nothing new. So that's really the average cost to you as a homeowner. So the interesting thing is a lot of us bought homes when they were cheaper. If you've been here very long at all, you've made a lot of money on your house. You invested a certain amount, you've been staying here, and now prices are going through the roof. So you're looking at like hundreds of thousands of dollars in many cases. And 46% of our current owners will pay less than $100 for the police station in a year in the highest first year. And that grows to 58% of us will pay less than $100 a year on average. So when we start arguing about how much it costs, let's look at what we're talking about in terms of how much money it is. It's not that much. And if you affect this by a small percentage, you haven't saved many dollars. Secondly, 92% of our current homeowners will pay less than $200 a year for the bond on average. So even for those who've invested more money in their homes, 92% less than $200. So when Jeff Hamill said that voters are going to have to decide whether they want to spend $200 to $400 on the police station, he was totally incorrect. 92% is from, $30 to $200. Now, it comes down to where are you individually. I've asked that this page be passed out because it's just information. Here it is for people with $0 to $200,000, let's say. At $200,000, you're going to pay a little less than $50 a year, and that's 24% of the people. So this is that same issue I just discussed, but wherever you are on this, you can figure out, hey, I'm in that 57% or whatever. And down here, let's say you bought a new house on my street at $600,000. That's the highest we've ever seen. I live in South Claremont. $500,000. Okay, it's going to $500,000 to $600,000. At $500,000, it's about $150 a year. Those new people moving in, paying that to us a high price for the house, will be looking at $150 a year moving into the new house. And I can tell you, I've talked to them. I know that a number of them are moving here for safety. They're moving for the Claremont experience, which includes schools, environment, but also the perception of safety of their homes. I could speak further, but we'll move on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just want to say, you're starting to...
I'm almost done.
Okay.
Here's another quote. If Claremont is to continue to have a municipal police force, there seems to be no question that the facility they currently operate from is inadequate. Now, this is actually an opponent. So what's his point? His point is, let's check out, see if we can use the sheriffs. I've seen more and more letters about that. Now, when I mention that to people like real estate agencies, they sort of like, are you kidding? So here's another page that we're going to pass out. I have been working with the police department for 10 years since I retired, and like Betty, I got interested when people busted the sliding glass door behind my house and rummaged through all my bedrooms and everything. And that happened to 3 houses on the same day in my cul-de-sac. And suddenly I was interested in the police. So we got together down at business school, and we found out that it was going on at a lot more streets in our neighborhood. And so we set up an email communication similar to Betty. And at that point, we started to work with the police, trying to reduce crime in our neighborhood. So I'm going to point out a few things that are just exceptional, and you will not get these if you try to go to the sheriff's. You get basic service, basic response service from the sheriff's, but anything else you have to pay for. You have to negotiate and pay for it. So I think their automatic license plate reader cameras are amazing. Last year they arrested 101 people based on original notification. Now I imagine myself as a policeman driving up trying to pull over that car that I know is stolen. What's going to greet me inside? Who's the person in there? How dangerous is that? I just am very pleased that our police will step up and stop those people. And then I sat in the audience with the police commission when officer after officer has gone up there for regional awards because they pulled over 6 or more stolen cars. And there were 6 of them. 6 officers went up there, 6 or more cars each. Okay, we have time enough to, we call it CSI Claremont. They're using DNA, they're using fingerprints, they're using video tapes from neighbors to find out who it was who broke into a home. They're using GPS-loaded bait bikes so that when somebody steals that part off the bike, they can trace it right to the locker where it's being stolen, and we don't have the bikes being stolen as they were in near as many numbers. On the human side, these officers stay in Claremont. They're recognized by residents, but also they recognize our homeless and mentally ill persons. And people have talked about how they recognize their daughters or their sons that were going through tough times and did not treat them, as strange criminals. We have 23 community patrol volunteers who, when North Claremont was getting hit, they got in the police cars. I'm looking at Bob Kern right now. Every week he was driving around being a visible presence in that neighborhood to deter crime. We have 123 community emergency response team members who prepare for earthquakes, all coordinated out of here. So in this station we have 70 employees. We have 130 volunteers working out of there. And finally, the crime-free multi-housing program where I've been involved. And community-wide, they've been able to reduce crime by 40% in the 9 years we've had that crime-free program. And on San Jose Avenue, which people used to think, well, because of its location, there wasn't much you could do to help it, they reduced crime there by 67%. Unbelievable. We never dreamed we could have been so successful. So I have experienced a tremendous partnership with the police. I think that those of us who have made money on their home, as I have, should be willing to share $100 a year, literally, $150 a year, to give them a safe and efficient workplace for the next 40 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have the lights, please. Anybody ready with the lights? Okay, Dean McHenry over on my right and Jean Hart's back there. Any questions? Write them down. I already have 2 up here, so as you're writing, also raise your hand so they can see you when you finished. If the citizens do not vote for the new station and it does not pass, how do we think the police officers will feel about the community as they will be forced to work in a substandard, cramped old building with no end in sight? That's a whole other sentence. I don't know if that can be answered, but your opinion on that.
Well, my opinion on that is that it would not be wise of us to delay this. And the need is significant, and the need is not going to go away. We need 67% of everybody to say yes and vote yes on June 5. I say high five for June 5.
I want to say one more thing about proposing that we fire them essentially and turn it over to the sheriffs. We got to knock that stuff off. I hope each and every one of you will push back anyone talking about that. If I were an employee doing all this stuff, the license plate readers, you know where they came from? Grants. They're sitting there writing grants, and each one of those at a 4-way stop, $150,000. They put so much work into trying to give us the best service, and then for us, it's like, to me, it would be like a slap in the face to say, we don't appreciate what you're doing. We think we'd survive with sheriffs. I don't think we would. I've heard recently that the sheriffs are 1,000 officers short. Their overtime is going through the roof. They're way overspending their budget. So I don't know, it's not realistic at all for them to take over Claremont, and there's no way we should even dream of asking that.
Okay, anybody from the opposition in the audience like to address that question? Okay, moving on to the next one. This is kind of along the same lines. Most everyone agrees that an updated police station is needed, but the question for many is how, not why. Given the current political climate towards law enforcement at both the state and county levels, considering some of the concerns expressed by our own officers at recent community meetings about state laws being pushed, and given the chief's crime report released in February, can we also agree that the city can and should do more to demonstrate their commitment to the enforcement of laws before demanding funds for a decade-old problem? I'm not quite sure the answer to that. Seems like more of a comment, but...
If I understood it properly, I would say that it is much harder now that people who commit misdemeanors are treated so leniently in the court system. So that problem hasn't gone away. I have heard that elsewhere, if you call and there's been a problem that it's a misdemeanor and you don't have a lead on who it is, you may not see a responding officer. That is not true in Claremont. They are continuing to investigate not only minor crimes, but suspicions to prevent crimes. So I see them as doing an excellent job, despite the fact that it's harder, and they comment, I've heard them comment, that they see the same faces. You know, we see it in the Courier. Someone's arrested, and then we see it again, right? That's got to be frustrating. But despite that, my understanding of their 2017 Part 1 crime report was that it was actually 1% improvement over 2016. And I think that's amazing when you're holding things pretty steady despite these problems that everyone's talking about statewide.
Okay, I'm going to correct this a little bit because I think she meant to say is, or he or she. What date is used for assessed value of homes?
What date?
Mm-hmm.
What date?
That's what it says. What date
Yeah,
is used, or it says what date used. I think they mean is used for annual value of homes, assessed value of homes.
Okay, there's a page here that was passed out showing how much is paid by people with different investments in their home. First of all, I'm sure we all remember what we paid for our home, right? And since Proposition 13 went into effect, which I did not vote for, but it went into effect, that value can only go up 2% a year. So you're not far from what you paid. Even if you've been here 40 years like me, it's like 60% more than it was when I paid for it. So when you look at it, you're way down and you're way low in that chart if you've been here very long. If you want to know exactly what your net taxable value is, it's on your tax statement from your county, but also at the bottom of this sheet, it shows a place on the web. You go to this place, you type in your address, you just type in your number and street, it gives you like 8 options where that exists in LA County. You click on yours and you're there. You can read what your net taxable value is, even forecasted for 2018. So you can see what's coming this thing here.
And another thing just hit me too, maybe they're talking about property value as opposed to assessed value. So the assessed value is, of course, what you paid for the property for the majority of us, whereas the market value, what you would go to sell for, would be something different. The assess is not moving very much on our property tax.
Well, the assessed value, I think, is what you get on your property tax. That's what the county assesses your house for. So your house may be worth, say you bought it in 1976, it may be worth, let's say, $700,000. It's probably going to be assessed at $150,000. So that's what I think they mean the bond would assess your house at that. If you look at your property tax, you'll see down there what your assessment is. That's not all the add-ons that are there. Don't count those, just what your house is assessed for. That's, I think, the answer to that. So the date is whenever you get your bill, that's what it's assessed. Now, when the bond, that'd be a good question, when the bond, they go out for the bond, is that when they assess your house that year?
Every year, the city has to come up with $1.55 million to pay off the borrowing. So they look at how much is the total assessed value in Claremont, and they divide it. And they're going to come up with a number, a different number, a lower number than $31 per 100,000. So that is going to be adjusted every year. But your assessed value is adjusted by the county every year. It goes up about 2%. Now, I want to speak to the example that Jackie just gave. You were saying, what if a person now had an assessed value of $150,000? Mm-hmm. That's 1.5 times $25. That's $37 a year. And then we're going to argue about whether that's fair. I just think it's ridiculous.
Okay, the next question is, why, I think she means why he or she, why do owners of, why owners of assessed value homes over $1 million are exempt? Or why are, I guess they mean to say. I don't know if that's true or not, but.
No, they're not exempt. $1 million is 10 times $25 a year would be $250 a year. I just didn't put it on the chart, if that's what you're looking at, because that goes on forever, and it only represents 8% of our residents. I don't know what the most expensive house in Claremont is. They can do their own multiplication.
And you're talking about assessed value, too, not the market
Assessed,
value.
yeah, if somebody came in, yeah, there are people with, well, anyway. If somebody comes in right now and buys a $3 million home, then it would be 30 times 25, that would be, what, $750 a year for police service. So that would be high for them, but they just bought a $3 million house, and they're bidding the prices up. That's the other point I wanted to make. We often say, well, we have to protect, the next buyers of our homes. Well, they're very anxious to be here. And part of why they're coming here is the safety of that investment, and they're paying a lot more than for the police to be here.
Okay, if assessed values go down, can tax on the bond be reduced? I don't know. Well, I guess if
So
your assessed value goes
it's-
down, I guess if you had a fire or something, I think they would.
It seems like we have a lot of questions on the cost of this.
Mhm.
And Jim has the cost sheet right here. And it's just like my neighbor down the street. They just sold their house. The assessed value was $150,000. The new person bought it for $700,000. What are the odds of that happening on your street? Probably the same as my street. When folks buy, the assessed value is now $700 instead of the lower price. So as our neighbors move out and sell their homes, everybody's current price that they're paying is going to go down. The projections are for everybody to end up somewhere around 24 per 100,000. That's based on projections. Projections are, it's a pretty fine dance. I'm a chef and registered dietitian. I am not an accountant per se. But
Does
from the city.
anyone in the audience know that answer? That wants to speak? Okay. I actually have a question. If I have, let's say, for instance, this is not my house myself, but I've been asked this question about a million times. If I have let's say, an 1,800, let's say 2,000 square foot home, would it be cheaper? Would I be assessed less through the GO bond than the parcel tax per square foot that was proposed?
I'd like to speak to that. Because the whole thrust that I see in the paper is this, so Claremont, homeowners are having to pay more than they would have to if we have a square footage parcel tax. That was the alternative being considered. So there's a lot of discussion of that in the paper. How much you pay on a square footage parcel tax would be determined by the square feet of your house. Right? So I noted that some people who've been in opposition to this plan actually have large houses. And they actually would pay more under the square footage parcel tax plan than under the GO bond. Now, why they're opposing it, I don't understand. I think it's just a way to say, no, I don't want to do anything. But yes, there are definitely people who would pay more based on their square footage.
Is it the house or the lot?
The
The
house,
square footage of your improvement,
which is the house.
which is the house. So, but it's not that much different. I mean, in most real situations that I've looked at, it can be $30 one way or another, or $50 one way or another. But clearly, there are people who are, if by chance you held off and then you brought it back and you passed the parcel tax, they would actually pay more. Now, the other thing that's happening that Betty brought up is every year, you saw in the budget that $800,000 a year, the project grows in cost. So if we wait 3 years, we just boosted the cost by at least $2.4 million. So waiting is costing us money, in my opinion. The other summary figure I'd like to tell you is I compared that $5 million that they constantly talk about to the total amount that homeowners will be paying, and it's 16%. So let's say you get the colleges to pay more, you get your commercial to pay more, you make your nonprofits pay more, and homeowners get to have their fees reduced by 16%. Well, if you're going to pay $120, you just save yourself $20. Meanwhile, the cost of the project went up, so I don't think you save anything. So I think delaying the project right now is simply voting no on doing the station with a good smoke screen. That's my personal belief.
This question actually pertains to some of what you're saying. When will we find out what the colleges are going to chip in?
The colleges will notify the city, and the city will give this to city council, and they will notify us. I am hoping that this comes very soon, and that we have the pleasure of sharing what it is that they would like to provide. It's called a pilot, a payment in lieu of option. Payment in lieu of taxes.
So there have been numbers kicked around for quite a while, but it's not real until it's real. And the colleges have to get approval up through their boards and all that kind of stuff. So it just isn't there yet. And I wish by tonight's meeting we could tell you what that number was, but we can't.
What would the colleges be paying if they had to, if there was a parcel tax by square footage and they had to pay that? Do you know?
Yes, this was in a document that was given to the city council in December when they had to make a decision between the GO bond or the square footage parcel tax. And the number was the colleges would be required to pay $4.2 million more over the full 25 years. But I want to share with you what would happen to the other people. Let me see where it is. Yeah.
And let's not forget as well, when we're talking about the colleges, we're also speaking of the nonprofits. And we fully recognize, I think all of us recognize, that we live in a college town, and it's a great and wonderful partnership that the city and the college have joined for many years. And so one of the things that would also come with the the parcel square footage is an example that comes to mind across from the police station is OLA. OLA would also be paying, all of the nonprofits would be paying in town, and the financing costs would be significantly more.
Yes, I did find the numbers. Colleges would be $4.243 million more over 25 years. Nonprofits would pay $627,000 more, and those are, as Betty said, churches, nonprofit retirement homes, nonprofit schools. Commercial parcels would have to pay $2.773 million more. Now, there was discussion on our committee that this is a problem because most of Claremont's income comes from sales tax. That's where our money comes from. And we are right here on the border between LA County and San Bernardino. And San Bernardino has a lower sales tax. So when we disadvantage our businesses, when we give more costs to them, it may drive car companies, which are the primary income for our city, to either have fewer sales or to not invest here. I mean, we've got them trying to come in. If we were to turn that tide, we'd be shooting ourselves in the leg to chase away that sales tax. Now, the total of all those is an additional $7.643 million coming from those three areas versus what they're going to do under the GO bond. However, as Betty said, the number here, we're going to have to spend more on the finance cost because a parcel tax is riskier. the banks charge more interest for those loans because the money comes to the city council and they don't necessarily, over this 25 years, have to pay back the bond. Whatever the risk is, they would charge $2.268 million more in finance. So bottom line, you have to raise $7.6 million on those three categories, offset by $2.268 million loss to the banks to get $5 million credit to homeowners, which is worth only 16% of what homeowners are going to pay anyway. And so that takes it back to, is 16% of what you're going to pay significant to you? And I think when you calculate the dollars, you're going to see it's not. You know,
So
it's
you're
20
saying that commercial does pay under the bond, it's just that they don't pay as much as if it was the parcel tax per square foot?
Yes, because commercial benefits, just like homeowners, from Proposition 13. So even though, you know, their taxes have remained low, just like homeowners' taxes have remained low, even though they've been doing better. They built buildings on it, sufficient improvements that with a parcel tax based on square footage, they would pay more on the square footage parcel tax, $2.77 million more. So if your big thing is, I want the colleges to pay, well then you're going to force the nonprofits, you're going to force the commercials to pay as well, and your benefit's going to be 16%. And losing 3-4 years at least. Because you know, if this gets lost, if people vote this down, there's going to be a big discussion. Why did it happen? You don't know what everybody was thinking about. You know, in prior, it was a parcel tax. We said, okay, we're going to make it a GO bond. Now now people are saying, well, if it was a parcel, I'd vote for it. You know, you can please some, but how many are you pleasing? How many are you losing?
I was just going to echo, Jim, what you said. For Measure PS, which I also co-chaired, that was a parcel tax. And I'm not sitting here saying that these are easy decisions to make as a member of 1 of 15 on this panel. And when I say 1 of 15, I'm talking about the mayor's ad hoc committee that presented this to the city council. We met for over 2 years. The financing option was something that was incredibly heavy on my heart. I heard firsthand from many neighbors over PS, and then I heard again from neighbors when we were looking at the mayor's ad hoc committee. But when it was my turn to vote, I supported GO. The reason I support GO is because the voters have already rejected parcel tax. We do not have a parcel tax in the city of Claremont that has passed. It is a GO bond that passes. I'm here to invest in our police department. I'm here to invest and make sure that our PD has the tools that they need to get their job done.
Another question that has been raised to me, I don't know why they asked me, but bond money, how do they phrase it? Something like the bond, bond money, or what you pay for the bond has to be used for the bond, whereas parcel tax sometimes can be used in other ways. I mean, I don't know that to be true, but that's what they were asking. They had heard that.
Yes, and a parcel tax can be rescinded. I mean, there's reasons why it's more risky to loan to a parcel tax project. That's why they're charging us they would charge us $2.268 million more. It's more risky to the banks.
Here's a question. Well, I don't know if you can answer this, but why do we have to pay for an exercise room for the police? I have to pay for my club membership myself. And Claremont is built out, so why is there so much flex space for expansion on the upper floor?
It seems like it's kind of a two-part question. Okay. So we have a situation right now with our current PD station is completely built out, and much of what PD needs and uses is outside. There is no space. We have janitor's closets that are offices. I met with this architect. I've been to buildings that this architect has put together, including the Whittier station, which had a lot of the similar challenges that we have here in Claremont. The flex space is what allows us to grow into the future. Without that flex space, there's no room for growth. You can look at the first floor and the second floor. I wish we had that picture back up. But where the locker room is situated, we have the male's locker room and the female's locker room. Right in that middle spot is what we're calling the exercise room. And the PD will use their own money to put whatever exercise equipment they want in there. But if that department grows, they have that space to use that will not be an exercise room should it be needed. But we simply don't have that right now. If you even look at the square footage that we have right now, that's not a fair comparison because that's not counting the square footage that they're using outside. Come to the open house at 1 o'clock on April 29th and see for yourself everything they have to put outside that we're not even counting that as a square footage.
2 points I'd like to make. Every police station we visited that's been upgraded recently has an exercise spot. It was commented to me that police job, you have to go from 0 to 60 quick. You have to be able to do that. I remember the time when one of our police officers was chasing someone and he hurt himself. Well, they go on workers' comp and they have to sit in the office for quite a while. So we lose the services of a police, police officer, thank you very much, because he pulled a muscle. So we want them. I mean, every police chief we talk to had incentives, whatever it took, to get them to be exercising. So it is in the public's interest to have the police exercise and be in good shape. Lastly, regarding the extra room, sometimes there are regional task forces that get together to work on something, and a room available to a task force, it can be critical.
Okay, sorry. Another point on parcel tax, wouldn't lowest income people pay the same per square foot as wealthiest?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's say, well, the thing is, a person with a 3,000 square foot home would pay twice what a 1,500 square foot home is, no matter where it is in the city. So it is a pretty flat tax, where even the most wealthy mansion would pay not more than 2 or 3 times what the least of our residences are. And so Betty has talked about the GO bond is a way to protect people who worked and grew up when salaries were way low. I hate to admit it, but when I graduated from college as an engineer, my first job was $12,000 a year. Today, that shocks people. Those of you who are my age, that may not shock you. But people have retired on incomes that are way less than today. And so they're really needing as much tax break as they can, and the GO bond provides that because it's based on when they first moved into their house.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Anyone from the opposition, or I like to say questioning, want to address?
I'd like to say something.
Okay, Donna? I think it's Donna, I'm not sure. Is it you, Donna? You need to come up here. Sorry. We don't have your mics. And I just turned it on for you, so you're hot.
There was a number of us who tried to make it tonight. My flight got canceled, so I'm good to go for tonight. But to speak to your comments about the opposition just saying no to say no, that's absolutely not the truth. And I think there's a few of you in the audience tonight who agree with me and who have the same exact fears and questions about the financial stability and sustainability of our community. We just passed Measure G for the schools. The City Council is now paying off an $11 million debt to the water company. We've got the Courier did an excellent expose on the unfunded liability of our city of $50 million. So to sit there and say we say no to say no, We say no because we're looking at the financial side of things. And as a homeowner, as a mom, as a responsible citizen, I balance my checkbook. I have a 20-year investment so far in this community. I live in a beautiful home. I enjoy the beautiful services that Claremont offers. My husband and I would never move anywhere else, and we appreciate that. But the reality of our financial status right now and the state of our city is in peril because of the unfunded liabilities, what we owe to the water company, the bonds that we have not paid back yet. So this is why we're looking at it from that standpoint, and that's many of the comments. I think we absolutely need modifications and modernizations of our police department. I couldn't agree more, but I think that building a new facility that's 165% bigger than the current one, when our population has increased by only 45%. Some of the numbers that you threw up with the buildable land doubling, that's not true because we added, 4 to 5 of those acres are, square miles are unusable because there are open spaces. They're not patrolled, so you're adding in land mass that is not patrolled, not buildable, and not expandable. Now, I will say, I do take heed with one point, and that is the state's mandate, and I think there was an article today in the Daily Bulletin that talked about the communities that surround the Metrolink that we all love. I use the Metrolink, I love the Metrolink, I love mass transit, but there's going to be a mandate that comes down that is going to require us to put more and more houses, stacked houses in our community. Is that what Claremont's about? I don't know. I think there's just so many questions that are unanswered. The police station absolutely needs some modernization and modifications, but to the extent that they're asking, I don't think so. I think that it's too big, too costly, and coupled with the other financial obligations that our city is facing, and the trouble that we have with getting the money together to pay the balloon payments every year to the water company, it just really frightens me that we're not looking at that aspect of our city's finances. And when we become desperate because we need revenue, then what are we going to do? So thank you very much. I really appreciate being able to talk.
Could I just reply to that? So I understand that concern, and we were all devastated by the loss of the attempt to take over the water company, obviously. However, the question is, are we ever going to build a police station or not? If we're concerned about whether we have money, it doesn't matter whether it's a parcel tax or a geo bond. It's what I just heard was a description that we don't have the money in this community to fix our police station, and I disagree with that. In terms of the growth, by the end of this year, there's going to be 400 new graduate students next to KGI. That building's being completed. The Village South specific plan is in line with what Don just said. They're discussing whether the height of that housing is going to be 4 stories or 5 stories. Go next Tuesday to talk to the city council and see that developer has been proposing 5-story high housing. So in that whole block from Indian Hill over to Bucknell, from Arrow so to say we're not going to grow, as you said, it's coming actually fairly soon. Quite a bit of new residences. So when we look out 40 years, I think it's not right to say we won't grow. Now, the committee did say to the engineers initially, I don't know if I said it, but how can you brace this thing so it can meet earthquake standards? What will it cost, seriously, to analyze that? And they said we can't. That roof is so heavy, we can't fix it. So it's not a matter of rearranging things, it's a matter of eliminating, and the moment you do anything significant to that building, by law, you have to bring it up to earthquake standards. So they've been doing little bits, trying not to cross that line to require the major rebuild of it. So we just have to bite the bullet. Either we're going to do this or we're not. And I'm saying we need to do this, and now is the time to do it. And when you look at the cost to you, I think you're going to agree you can afford it.
Was there a question back there? I saw someone with their hand raised and a card was submitted to her. Yes? Okay.
Do you want me to just write it down?
Yeah, please. Written questions, thank you.
And I want to point out one other thing too on that, while we're waiting on that, is that nobody comes up here and says that we don't have the need. Not one person. We have the need. This is our opportunity to invest in the safety of Claremont. It's our opportunity to give the police department the tools that they need to do their job. I had a member of the opposition speak at public comment, and he shared a public comment in the mayor's ad hoc committee that he did not recommend that we go parcel because it will hurt our seniors the most. I wanted to thank him because that really stopped me in my tracks and made me think about all the folks that have been here for so many years and made me reflect on everything that we've been through with Measure PS. We have been down this road and our neighbors did not support a parcel tax. We have a GO bond. It is an incredibly frugal, conservative project of $25 million. We worked very hard. I'm super proud of that neighbor effort of all 15, working closely, hand in hand, side by side, under the direction of Mayor Corey Kalikai, who assembled us with the city staff, with our city manager, with Claremont PD. This is a very thoughtful and thorough project, and it is an incredibly frugal project that I am very proud to share with you and advocate for.
Okay, we have another question. Not quite sure with any, but what happens if we don't get the police station and have sheriff's services and then find we don't like it? Can we go back to having a police station? I don't know if they mean police station or police force, because you have to...
Through KG&H, which I have been working for the past 11 years, keeping the good in our neighborhood, I live in North Claremont. I live right next to the horseshoe of the unincorporated area. I have neighbors that have sheriff, and I obviously have neighbors that have Claremont Police Department. Let me tell you something about the response time of the sheriff's department. You come home and your home is burglarized, the threat is gone. The sheriff did not come. I asked the chief, yeah, she's still back there. Chief, I'm just going to look at you. You give me pushback if I get this wrong. I asked the chief, if you get a call that a home has been burglarized, do you send a PD officer even if the person is gone? She said yes. And I said, every time? She said yes. She said, this is what we do in Claremont PD. When somebody calls 911 and they hang the phone up, we go. That's service. That's safety. And I'm asking you today to join us and help us advocate. We need 2/3 of everybody to say yes on June 5th.
Actually, I can attest to that. I dialed 911 by mistake. I still think I dialed another number. It was the phone service that screwed up. But anyway, I called. I said, she said, the operator came, or the dispatcher said, you have 911? What's your problem? I said, nothing. I thought I done something. Oh no, we're sending a police officer. He was out there on his motorcycle. Came up to the door, I had to go and answer it, and I said, I'm so sorry. He says, well, no, at least it was a good outcome. Nobody was killed or anything. Another time, my neighbor called the police on us because she picks up our mail and she thought we were away, and so my husband was confronted by the police who needed to see his identification to make sure he was the actual person who was supposed to be in that house. Anyway, so there was a very prompt response. Fortunately, we haven't ever had the sheriff's yet. Okay, did we have another? Oh, here it is. No. Okay, I'm confused by the opposition statements that we can't afford a bond. What do they propose to make Band-Aid repairs. How is that paid for? I'm not sure how Band-Aid,
Yeah, I think we dealt with the
general
fact
fund.
that you can't have Band-Aid repairs to earthquake hazard of that station. You can't touch it legally to improve the jails or anything in it without totally bringing it up to code. So there are no Band-Aid fixes. That's what they've been doing. And, they're very proud of how they've made do. And it's really hard to show your station and say it's still short in this way because I've done everything I can possibly think of to make this work in the best possible way. But it's either this project or it just stops until, who knows, someone thinks our public will have changed their mind.
If there is a concern of neglect for the financial burdens on the community, would waiting to rebuild the PD not create a greater financial burden on the community?
Yeah, there's a terrific liability, obviously. If we have an emergency and our emergency response center is unable to help, we're going to be very sorry. And if that building gets red tagged and we can't use it, we're going to be very sorry. And if people get hurt in that building, so the statement that, well, we haven't seen it happen yet, is like the person who said, well, my house hasn't caught on fire yet, so I'm not going to get any insurance. And I heard about a family where they really did that and went off to Europe and they came back to a burnt down house. So you can't wait to have the proof of the danger, then it's way too late.
Another question I heard a lot was, if the bond doesn't pass, then what do you do? Where do you go from there? I don't know if you have an answer to that.
That's a political question to the city council. And they have to decide why the heck didn't it change? Did it not pass? And how will anybody change their mind? What was the real reason they didn't vote against it, for it?
Any other questions? Anyone from the opposition? I'm sorry.
Are you asking for?
I'm asking, number one, if anybody has a written question, and number two, if anyone from the opposition would like to speak to any of those issues. Okay, if you have a question, raise your hand so we can get a card to you. Oh, she's writing it. Okay, somebody is writing it there. Great. I just also want to say quickly, while we're waiting for this person to finish writing, due to Matt back there, I can't remember your last name. I'm sorry, it's new. We have some wonderful new members of the board. He is really good with Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of thing. So Active Claremont is now on Facebook, and I think we have is it an Instagram, whatever that. I don't use those things, so I have no idea. He's bringing us up to the 21st century. So thank you for that. Okay. Considering the condition of the PD, how does it continue to be insured?
I don't know.
You may not know the answer to that. It was considering the condition of the police department, I guess meaning the building, how does it continue to be insured? I guess.
I don't know how the insurance industry works, but things are grandfathered. And so if you built it under the code at the time and now it's still there, nobody shuts you down until there's some event, like an earthquake or whatever, and then the inspectors come in and say this is not habitable. I used to worry about that, about my daughter's house on the hill. And one day it's just going to be totally locked out. But I don't know how the insurance company handles that.
Would you like to know?
Yes.
That's okay. If the building is unsafe, why is it occupied? If it's occupied, isn't it deemed safe?
This is not a condemned building. It's not a red tag building.
Yeah, I think the city could probably Adam Curry could probably answer that from the financial director from the city. No, he's not here. And we do have our insurers, and it was always amazing to me to see, exactly what things were insured, how much certain things were insured for. But believe me, our underwriters are very astute at thinking about, assessing what our condition is and how much they can charge us for insurance. Now, that would be a good question, has our insurance gone up since the condition of the police station has gone down? That would be a good question.
Let me say, I used to be management for a company. You didn't go around explaining all your liabilities to everybody. You didn't want to scare your employees. You didn't want to scare your insurance company. But the situation we have right here is we have to lay it on the table. Because people are saying, no big deal, we can just let it ride. But it is a big deal. So we have to talk about 20 inches of concrete over this building. I didn't know that number. That was a pretty closely held number until very recently. But that's the truth that we heard on the committee. And we were specifically talking to a seismic engineer who evaluated that building. So there is nothing speculative about the comment that it's got to be replaced. And it has not been in compliance with new building construction since 1986.
Okay, apologize for my...
But let me add this. Northridge really demonstrated it to people. Remember that? That was in the 90s. That's when buildings went down that were supposed to not go down. And they said, how the heck did this happen? And the answer was, well, there was a lateral component to that earthquake, and it knocked the walls out from underneath the overhead floors. And so then they tightened it even further, and that's really the danger with this one. It was demonstrated with the Northridge quake.
Okay. If we do not vote yes and fail to improve our police station, what will be the effect on the crime rate on the city with poorer facilities?
That's a great question. Yeah, we don't know.
Are there any more questions? Because we're getting close to our time where we need to stop the program and thank our presenters, all of them who presented, and leave time for you to talk more informally with them, with each other, I think there are 2 or 3 council members in the audience. I won't name them. You should know them. If you don't, they can introduce themselves. And thank you for coming to Active Claremont and participating in our forum. As you know, those of you who know Active Claremont, we try to present, if there is both sides of an issue, we try to present them. Upcoming events are City Council Candidates Forum in September and School Board Candidates Forum in October. Yes, they changed their times that they're being elected, and so we have one Candidates Forum after another, and I will be moderating them if I'm still here and my vision improves and everything. I just had cataract surgery, so pardon the sunglasses. Thank you so much, Betty Crocker and Jim Keith, and thank you, Donna Lowe, for also presenting. Lots of material on the back side there, the back table there, and we need to be out of the building at 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.